Blacks was actually born in the Portobello Road one rainy Saturday night with a yellow legal pad, where we wanted a name that summed up the product, and it was green because it was organic, it was black because it was the darkest chocolate on the market, and putting an ampersand made it sound instantly like it had been around since 1876, like something like Charbonnel and Walker, Barker and Dobson, etc. But in fact, I'd found the product a few months beforehand by discovering 2 squares on my husband's desk of a prototype bar that he had been sent. And I teased him because he was in the whole food business, and said, what are you doing with chocolate? And he said, well, you know, it's the world's first organic chocolate, but I can't do anything with it, it's got sugar in it. And his company philosophy was no added sugar. So basically I nagged at him, and eventually he turned around and said, look, why don't you do it? Which meant he could do the sales and marketing through his company, but I had to do the sales and distribution, I had to do the marketing and PR, and very importantly I had to finance it because he didn't have launching a new brand in his budget. So I rang my bank manager, asked him to transfer £20,000, and he said, what for? And I said, chocolate. And that was it really. I mean, you know, it was my money, and we bought 2 tons of chocolate, which was a hell of a business risk. I'd never been in business before. But when I was 16, I bought a postcard of a man on a diving board, and it said, if you don't do it, you'll never know what would have happened if you had done it. I was off the edge of the diving board. It was actually magical what happened with Green and Blacks. You know, we found ourselves very often pushing at open doors. We knew, because my husband Craig Sams had a reputation as a kind of pioneer and an inventor in the natural food world, that we would get into the natural food industry, all the health food shops etc., because they were always looking for something new. But in fact, to my great surprise, after about 3 months, I was actually sitting at my desk one day, and I fielded a call from the buyer at Sainsbury's, who said, one of our directors has had your chocolate at a dinner party, and we would like to invite you to submit it for a product review. And having never been in business before, I didn't know that this isn't how it happened. But I went home and told Craig what had happened, and he said, no, it doesn't work like that. You know, you go knocking at their door for 2 years, and eventually it opens, you get your foot in. And but it did happen like that. And at that point, in about 1991, actually Sainsbury's was the #1 supermarket, and all the other supermarkets kind of wanted to be Sainsbury's. So pretty soon we were into Safeway and Waitrose and Morrison's, and a bit later on into Tesco. Sometimes without even seeing a supermarket buyer. So that was completely magical, and it helped that we were first, that we had good looking packaging, and above all that the product tasted fantastic. We didn't make the decision to be ethical, it's just how we always did business. And it wasn't until one day I was watching Oracle, you know, the TV news, I saw something about the Fairtrade Foundation, and I saw that they were looking for a brand on which to put the mark. And I read the list of criteria, which was that they weren't allowed to use dodgy pesticides. Well, we fitted that because ours was organic, and so there were no pesticides. You had to sort of offer farmers secure contracts. Well, we did that. And actually, we had to offer a fair price, which we were already paying, because we were paying an organic premium. And so we actually very easily qualified for the fair trade mark. And for us, it was, you know, it was fantastic building this relationship with the farmers. But the relationship, to be perfectly blunt, was symbiotic, because it meant that we had security of supply as well. It was at that time you couldn't buy organic chocolate on the commodity market. So by having this close relationship with farmers, it meant we knew we could get our hands on the chocolate beans, the cocoa beans that we needed. But it never occurred to us to do business any other way. And actually what we've shown is that, you know, by paying a fair price and by having the fair trade mark on a product, you know, you may end up with something that's 1 or 2p more expensive for the customer. But what you end up doing is transforming the lives of farmers in the third world. So it's a complete no-brainer to me that actually all trade should be done that way. customers buy something because it's organic or fair trade, they may buy it for the first time because of that, because it piques their interest, or because it resonates with something about their principles and who they like to think that they are. But actually what gets them coming back time and again is if it's a quality product, if it's as good as or better than what they're already buying. And if you're not, then you're not going to succeed, because people unfortunately don't shop philanthropically. They shop because they're greedy or because they're stylish or whatever, and you can't really change that. So what you need to do is offer something that's you know, a rival to what they're already buying, and then they actually like it even more because you've got an ethical or a social message tied up in it, and then they become very, very loyal to it because it has that extra feel-good factor. But they won't buy just because of that. We initially took the decision to take investment from a private equity company which had a very good track record. They had taken the new Covent Garden soup company from £2 million a year to £22 million a year and sold it for £28 million. And actually, New Covent Garden soup was a brand that had real parallels with Green and Blacks. It was a kind of a niche product, but actually had quite wide distribution, and people had a tremendously loyal feeling towards it. So they had a good track record. We, at that point, from then on, had no control over whether or not it was sold on, and we ultimately knew that it would be. So initially, obviously, it was Cadbury's, which is an extremely good fit with Green and Blacks. Subsequently, it's been Kraft. But, you know, the reason that people buy brands is not essentially to change them, it's because they're doing something that they haven't managed to do. And the equation for me is that every single extra bar of Green and Blacks that's sold actually helps to change the life of a family in the third world. So the more bars that are sold globally, the more lives get changed. And the bigger the company that is distributing your product, ultimately, probably the bigger your brand will become. So, you know, I don't have problems with who own my company now, because I know that at the end of the day, actually more farmers are going to be helped. And besides, neither Cadbury nor Kraft have ever tried to interfere with how the chocolate's made, or where it's made, or the design, or the flavour, or anything like that, you know. Because if it ain't broke, why fix it? So nothing's changed about the product, and I don't see why anything should. And I certainly would be quite cross if anybody did try to tamper with my fabulous product, I have to say. My 3 tips for business success are: you have to be prepared to work harder than you ever thought possible. You know, I was often putting in 16-hour days, and that's kind of normal. Very importantly, harness the power of publicity for what you're trying to do. It's all very well doing something, but you've got to get the message out there. And PR is worth far, far more than the kind of scattergun approach of advertising. And thirdly, you know, just try to make sure that your product is as good as or better than someone else, or it's got a USP, because you'll stand a chance that you see a lot of Me Too products and a lot of them fail. So it's really a case of identifying that great idea and then flying with it.